All right. It's a great day in Kershaw County. It's a great day in All-America County. We're called to order. Mr. Connell reports he's stuck in traffic and what amounts to a Kershaw County traffic jam, which is probably 2 cars and a tractor. And it's a great city, a great county. And now we seem to be at a point where we have 0 cases today in COVID. And the good Lord is shining on us. So it's giving us an opportunity to celebrate All-America County with the Carolina Cup, a rodeo last week, graduations, proms, and all sorts of things that distinguish us as a great place to live, work, play, worship, and raise our families. You know, I see we have Mr. Webb here in celebration of the fact that our Clean Community Commission, thank you for coming, Tom, had over 400 people. Mr. Jones, Mr. Snodgrass, myself, Mr. Brazel, many of us, 1,000 bags of trash, 7.5 tons of trash, 90 miles of roads cleaned. Somebody said you can see Kershaw County from outer space right now. And we hope that we've done a permanent change to our attitude about trash because we are a great place and a great county. With that, I ask you to stand and we will have an invocation which I will lead, and then we will recite our Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, my prayer is a little bit off cycle. I want to read from the Old Testament that reminds us of our cause for celebration after a year, 15 months indeed, of faith in the Lord who has brought us through. And he says in Habakkuk that although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall fruit be in the vine, the labor of the olive shall fall, and the fields shall yield no meat. The flocks shall be cut off, and there shall be no herds in the stalls. Yet I, the Lord, will rejoice. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. The Lord God is my strength, and he will make my feet like hinds' feet, and he will make me to walk in the high places. I ask for a moment of silence and gratitude as our prayer in silence from each heart here gathered and those watching, and thankfulness for not yet relief, but that the relief is in sight. I ask your moment of prayer. Let all the people say, Amen. Amen. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mary, we have everyone present. With that, thank you, Ben. With that, we move quickly to public comments. Mary, do we have any call-ins? Mr. DeBose, would you take us through the public comments?
Mr. Chairman, 3 people signed up. The first person that signed up is Amanda Uten.
And as Ms. Uten comes forward, I remind you of the protocol. We limit to about 5 minutes. We stay on topic. We remain focused on the policy issue and not the personalities. And this is not a question and answer. This is a time to hear from you. Ma'am, please go right ahead and thanks for bringing your beautiful daughter with you tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. Good evening. I watched your working session this morning, and in that working session, the county administrator was questioned whether the budget last year was over or under. He replied with that it had been under budget for quite a few years. So, Mr. Carpenter, to you, job well done, sir, on that. However, this does, in my opinion, raise a question. Rather than absorbing this back into the general budget, why are we not using these budget savings to fund necessary projects instead of burdening the citizens and taxpayers with another tax or fee, as some have so eloquently disguised it? Next, you also claim that you have presented a balanced budget with no additional taxes included, yet there are 2 fee increases and some millages that have been reallocated or moved around. So as a concerned citizen of Kershaw County, I feel that this needs to be addressed by you all. And I do thank each and every one of you for your service, but I would like to say a special thank you to Jimmy Jones for fighting for the citizens of Kershaw County always, keeping an eye on the big picture, and bringing the truth to light. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. DeBose?
The second person that signed up is Jesse Payne.
Oh, great. Hey, Mr. Payne. I said,
How you doing? How you doing? Thank you for listening. I promise I won't go over 10 minutes, so if y'all bear with me, I'll try and keep it quick. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. As a taxpayer, I've been following the council's action for some time. I'm here tonight to mention a few things. I encourage you to take notice of the times we've just been through this morning and a couple of the times that I've been here before. To use the $12.9 million in federal funds to help the county's employees and all our local businesses, I'm in completely agreement with. I made a statement on Facebook earlier. I retract that. I didn't have all the information. I apologize. Please give us fire service without increase by the fees of $31. And I sincerely ask that you find some other way to pay for the fire service than increasing the road fees by $10 per vehicle. I'm not really sure where you find all this. I'm not in your shoes. However, increasing it to the taxpayers, I'm asking you to find another way. As a concerned citizen, especially for the rural areas where this is going to be coming from, a lot of these folks have already probably pretty low income. I wouldn't say all of them, but in rural areas, they travel further, and to put this extra fee on them is pretty much a burden. I mean, I don't know where you really get it from, but I'm sure with all the smart minds that are up there, we can come up with a better solution than adding extra fees of $31 on their property taxes that will lead up to already well over $60. So, okay. According to the last meeting I was at, I think we lose, from what I understand, $2 million a year at county sewer. And if we sold it, we could save that and use it for fire. Now, I don't know how true that is. However, but putting 2 and 2 to make 4, if we're losing $2 million on the sewer system and we can sell it or come up with some kind of plan to sell it, or I don't know how all that works, but if you allocate it some other way, Jimmy Jones came up with a plan. I don't know how definitive it was to you or how it made sense to you, but I'm pretty sure if we come together as a team a little bit better and work with it, we could come up with a better solution than putting it on the taxpayers. For the very people that you serve, I think if we don't come up with a plan to save taxes, to get our sewer system under control, and maybe, I don't know if Jimmy's plan is 100%, but if we work a little bit better with him, in my opinion, maybe we can come up with a better plan. Maybe there's someone out here in the community that has a good plan that we haven't listened to yet. Maybe we reach out a little bit more. I don't know what the plan may be. However, I do know there's some conflict of interest, or excuse me, not conflict of interest, but a little bit of anxiety, I would say, with the team here that I've seen personally. And if I may, we got to come together a little bit better. Work as a team. We all have ideas. We're not always going to agree on these ideas. But working together as a team better, I think, would be a whole lot better than bickering back and forth. That's including myself. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your efforts. Thank you, Mr. Jimmy Jones, for being over my precinct and trying to save taxpayers' fees and taxes, and anybody else on this council that's trying to do so. This isn't an easy job. I know it's not an easy job. You got the hearts and minds of all these citizens. I think 68,000 in Kershaw County that you have to look after. And you're not going to please everybody. I get it. And you're going to feel like you're attacked. But we got a lot of division in this country. And having it in a small town like this where everybody knows everybody. I see everybody. I've been to wrestling matches with Mr. Ben here. You got a pastor up here. You got Jimmy Jones that I've been knowing for years. I see everybody in these grocery stores. We have to answer to everybody. This bickering back and forth that we have inside the county council and in between parties has got to stop. I think, me personally, this is my personal opinion. I think Mr. Jimmy Jones had a good idea. I don't know how feasible that idea is, but I think it's well worth looking into instead of just saying, no, I don't think it's a good idea, yada, yada, yada. Why isn't it a good idea? Why is it a bad idea? These are the kinds of answers. You can't just say that there's a bad idea and not have an idea of your own to give back to the people with an answer. I mean, I think that's absolutely correct to say. If we're going to say no to something, why did we say no? Not just say, no, that's not a good idea. You've got to give a reason why it's not a good idea, or at least come up with your own idea to give to the people for that savings. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Mr. DeBose.
The third and last person that signed up is Tracy Carpenter.
Okay.
Thank you so much. As a brand new business.
Can you bring the microphone?
Oh, sure.
There you go. Thank you.
The cheerleader needs to be louder. Okay. As a brand new business owner and definitely as a concerned citizen, I have totally been paying attention to the county council budget. I am just standing up here without repeating everything everybody else said, and I'm just going to put it to you this way. I just want to say thank you, Jimmy Jones. You are truly standing up for the people that we're here representing you, and I think that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. DeBose?
That concludes the sign-up list, Mr. Chairman.
And that concludes public comments. We move now to the next item, and the agenda is up on the board. To adopt the agenda, can we have such a motion?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Mr. Tucker. A second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. Discussion on the agenda. I want to just clarify one point at tab K, item 3 under new business, the last item on the agenda, is a vote only on procedure regarding the Health Services District. Mr. Jones and I have wanted to make sure that we are all in agreement on the way forward. And so it's listed as a vote, but it's about procedure. Did I get that right, Jimmy?
You did, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Discussion only.
Yeah, well, and so the idea is we as a team are going to agree how to move forward through a rather complex nomination procedure when we get to that point. So with that, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify. And it's unanimous, and the agenda is adopted. And Ms. Mary, it is quite an agenda. Well done. We move now to a proclamation recognizing Lieutenant Frank Shira DeBose and Private Anthony Grasso. It's at tab A. It's on the screen, and it's page 4. First, I want to introduce it, and then we'll vote. But I will note for you that Memorial Day is Monday, and with VFW and American Legion here gathered today, on Thursday they will be putting flags out against veteran grave sites all over this county. And on Friday, Commander David Fuller of the American Legion Post 17 is going to welcome Private Grasso, 96 years old, World War II, Hurtgen Forest, 28th Division, with a photograph of his buddy who was killed, Mr. DeBose, now Lieutenant DeBose, in Quaker Cemetery. So I'll read this, and we'll move to a motion. And I'll read it in brief because it's quite lengthy and deserves to be so. And it's a proclamation that we intend to present to Private Grasso, who sees his buddy after over 75 years. Proclamation recognizing Lieutenant Frank DeBose and Private Anthony Grasso of the 28th Infantry Division, U.S. Army, Pennsylvania Army National Guard. Whereas Kershaw County is proud of its armed forces, whereas Kershaw County preserves and honors the graves of its honored dead in cemeteries countywide. And the VFW and the American Legion and thousands of our school children and our sheriff and fire departments stand in support. Thank you for coming tonight, Sheriff. Whereas Lieutenant Frank DeBose, a native of Kershaw County, served with distinction in the most bitter fighting of World War II in the European theater as an officer in the 112th Infantry Regiment of the famous 28th Infantry Division from the beaches of Normandy across France into Paris, and when faced with ferocious German defenses right on the very border of the German frontier, he was killed in German artillery fire in supporting company attacks in the bloody fighting in the Hürtgen forest at Wassenach. And whereas Lieutenant DeBose's actions interposed him between his radio man, Private Anthony Grasso, and enemy fire, and thus saved Grasso's life, sacrificing his own, whereas his body was returned to Camden some years after the war and interred with honor at Quaker Cemetery, whereas Private Grasso, a native of Massachusetts, recovered from his wounds and after a long life and many grandchildren and great-grandchildren and extended family at the age of 96, expressed his desire to render a quote-unquote final salute and to be reunited with his former comrade as chronicled in a recent book and in the Boston Globe newspaper. And whereupon a citizens group led by Sam Roussenville, Gail Bellotti, and the local long gone organization undertook to fly Mr. Grasso, Private Grasso, to South Carolina for a reunion with his comrade on the 28th of May, that is this Friday. Now, therefore, be it resolved in a meeting duly assembled at Kershaw County Council, hereby recognizes and honors Kershaw County native Lieutenant Frank Shirer DeBose and his comrade in war, Private Anthony Grasso, now reunited in Camden, and a grateful nation at peace, due in no small part to their sacrifices in World War II. And be it further resolved to thank Uncle Sam Roussenville, Jean Kenny Roussenville, Gail Bellotti, Ted Mullerville, the long gone organization, Major General Will Grimsley from our own Veterans Administration in South Carolina, the city of Camden, L.Z. Harrison and the American Legion Motorcycles, Carolyn Jackson and Quaker Cemetery, our own Sheriff's Department, Carnegie Funeral Home, Rusty Major, Margaret Buckaloo, and finally Major General Mark McCormick, the current commanding general of the famous 28th Infantry Division, duly adopted and approved. Can we have a motion to approve it?
So move.
Mr. Jones, a second.
Second.
From Mr. Connell. As a matter of discussion, the American Legion is here tonight, and they have a photograph of Mr., let's call it Lieutenant DeBose. Commander, could you just bring it up and show it to everybody? And for the record, the American Legion maintains the pictures and the history of every single Kershaw Countyan ever killed in defense of our nation. And that is commendable in the extreme. Thank you to the American Legion and VFW for doing that. I appreciate it. Comments, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Normally, I don't make motions, but this, to me, hit at home. I'm a veteran as well. Thank you all so much for what you did. Commander, thank you for all the hard work you do, and you're a good neighbor as well. But this is a great night, and whoever put this on the agenda, I tip my hat to you. So thank you so much.
Other comments? Second? Anybody?
Mr. Chairman, I second
Ben,
I
please.
would just say these are the kind of motions that I enjoy having on the agenda and celebrating and recognizing. It's always good to focus on the positive. Thank you.
Other comments? The terrible price of war. There are no heirs to Mr. DeBose. He's not related to our attorney unless it's distance. And the fact is that all war is horrible. Glorious in its way, but horrible in every sense of the word. And he left us with no heirs that we could have here tonight that we might honor them. But we'll see Mr. Grasso, and he's coming all the way from Pennsylvania to render due homage to his buddy, and he's bringing with him many of his own family that would not otherwise exist but for the sacrifice of one of our great patriots. So there you go. So with that, let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify. And it's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, American Legion. Thank you, Lieutenant DeBose and Private Grasso. Thank you very much. We move now to a public presentation. And if the American Legion wants to leave, this is where it gets down into the grits. Thank you. We move now to a public presentation. Mr. Carpenter, can you open it up? It's at tab B on page 5 of your agenda. It's the Atax committee recommendations.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, Kershaw County is a recipient of funds that are collected through the Atax, which is the accommodations tax program. The accommodation tax is levied on hotel rooms in Kershaw County. By law, a certain percentage of that money must be distributed through the work of a Citizens Advisory Committee, which reviews applications and then makes a recommendation to the County Council. County Council must make the decision to accept or to change as they so desire. Our chairman of the committee, Mr. Chip Galloway, is here to go over the recommendations and discuss as needed.
Now, just to be clear, there's no vote tonight?
This is part of the budget.
All right, very good. Mr. Galloway, we're delighted you're here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Councilman, it is an honor to be here following that proclamation. I don't know what else I can say, but thank you and go home. But it's been my honor to serve on the Atax Commission for the last number of years. I bring before you the recommendations for 2021. We had $54,513 that we were allowed to make a recommendation to award. We had a number of grants. We spent a lot of time talking over them, and we try our best to be good stewards of the money of Kershaw County. You see it on the screen, and I bring the recommendation to you, and to let you know I appreciate and the honor that y'all gave me to be able to serve the number of years that I have, and this is my last hurrah with it. I was blessed to be able to serve with one of the finest ladies I have ever met in my entire life. Mary Siegler has taught me so much, and just such an honor to serve with, and I can't wait for the day we have a proclamation for Mary Siegler so I can be here and speak. But just wanted to make sure I got a opportunity to tell Mary what an honor it was to serve with you. Thank you so much.
All right, well, I've got something to say at the end, but gentlemen, comments?
Yes. Mary already got a raise. Chip, thank you for those kind words about Mary. It's all true, and I absolutely agree with you on that. And I'd just like to say to you, this is your last year. You've been a dear friend of mine. You still are a dear friend of mine and will be, continue to be, but we're going to miss you here. You've done an outstanding job, and 8 years maybe? Who knows? Who's counting? But you never complained, and you always have the smile on your face, and I appreciate you, and I call you friend. Thank you.
Thank you so much. God puts people in your life, and God puts you in situations to help people and make people better and to make their life easier. And I was a servant on this board to help her, and hopefully I'm going to leave it better than I found it.
You did.
Okay. Other comments? Mr. Tucker. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Galloway and the crew, your committee, I want to say thank you, especially to you for over the years, the constant years of, it's not fun. You look at what's up there, it's $116,000, and you only got 54 to work with. That's tough decisions. And, a lot of us in this room don't like making tough decisions, whether it's personal or whether it's for the citizens and businesses of Kershaw County. But I commend you and the entire committee for the work that y'all have done over the years, and once again, making best selections and recommendations back to council for this budget cycle. So thank you, and many blessings moving forward.
Okay. Other comments? Mr. Brazel.
Chip, you're a good friend of mine. You're a good friend of my grandmother's, the most important lady in my life, other than my wife and my mother, of course. They're all equal.
Clean that up, didn't he?
Hey, she's in my top 3.
Nice cover, sir. I want to make a point. If y'all don't know Chip Galloway, you've never met a finer individual who can be an example of how a Christian is supposed to act. I fail every day, and I think about Chip frequently, and some of the personal struggles and battles that he's going through right now. Nobody knows what that man's going through, and he's up here doing this for us. My hat's off to you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other comments? Mr. Gardner.
Yeah, Chip, we appreciate all the hard work that you do. I've had the pleasure of knowing Chip from being a student of mine and teaching him accounting many years ago, and I hope this has helped you in this.
It took me 30-something years to get back in that
I'm
field,
gonna take
so
some credit
I
for
used
that,
it. I used it.
Thank you for your work. It's not an easy job, and we appreciate all you've done over the years. Thank
It
you.
was an honor. Thank you.
Other comments? Mr. Connell.
Saturday at the Cup, first person I see walking up with my kids is Chip. He runs up, master of the selfie, comes over and says, "Hey, man, let's have a good day." Couldn't be more beautiful. Aren't we blessed? And that's true. Russell mentioned an example, and I think that's important to say, particularly with Atax or any committee that someone decides to serve on. If you show up and you do the work, that provides a huge amount of assistance to the county overall, because these committees reach out into the community and get a different input than the seven of us can put together generally. So I appreciate you showing up and doing the work, and I hope everybody else on any committee that's appointed or otherwise can follow that example. Thank you.
Other comments? Mr. Snodgrass.
Chip, thank you so much for your work, man. In fact, Saturday, my first thought was, I can't wait to see Chip to get my selfie. So, thank you for what you do. I look at this chart, and sometimes people think, you think of Camden, you think of Kershaw County, and we throw around words like tourism, and you get some people are like, tourism, there's no tourism here. And people, they fail to realize that in our little community, whether through recreation, through events, through historical tourism, that's continuing to grow, this represents people that are staying in our hotels because of catfish tournaments at the lake and other type of events. And thank you so much for leading the team to help us reinvest this into tourism activities that's going to continue that cycle. And I personally thank you so much for who you are, what you do. Kershaw County is better because of the Galloways. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. And one thing I want to thank council for is the years that I've done this, and we bring recommendations to the council. After the time we spend, the discussion we have, the people we get together, and the hours we spend, the recommendations we bring, y'all adopt. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you taking serious the time we spend in it and what we get to do it. And for y'all to take our recommendations and approve them into the budget, I really appreciate. Thank you.
Chip, this is for you.
Chip, if you could stay. Chip, if you could just stay there. So, Chip, I've been asked to read something from
My favorite book. You done read from my favorite book.
I already read from your favorite book. This is a letter from the people you led these many years. Okay? And Mary always has a way of springing a surprise on us, right? So she handed me this to read. Dear Mr. Chairman and council members, it is with pleasure that I pen this letter representing all the members of the Atax Committee to express our appreciation for Chip Galloway. For years longer than the current committee members have been serving, Chip has served, and he has led an important endeavor for the county. Chip introduced a resolution that solidified the procedures for this committee, remember? This resolution not only established the foundation for the committee recommendations, it facilitated also an ease of operations for the staff. There have been several times that the committee has approached a difficult decision and relied upon this document to make the correct decision for all concerned. His leadership of the group has been steadfast, even-handed, and also creative, ensuring allocated dollars have been appropriately recommended. He is truly a good steward of the budget line and an outstanding friend of Kershaw County. It is with honor that we say thank you and well done, Chip Galloway. Sincerely, on behalf of the entire committee, Catherine LeMay Brown. Sir, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
So with that, we move out of the important stuff into the hard work. Approval of minutes. Minutes are at tab C, page 6, and should be appearing on the screen momentarily. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gardner, Mr. Tucker, second, and any discussion of the minutes?
Thank you, Ms. Mary.
All right. With that, we move to a vote. All those in favor, so signify. And the minutes are approved, Mary. We move now to an administrative update, and I propose this is the last time we take this update. Not because COVID has gone away, but because it has reduced its presence among us, and hopefully we'll not see any more rise or spike after this holiday. Over to you, Vic.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, as the chairman has already said, today we had our second day in a week with 0 cases reported in Kershaw County. As you see, the peak that we reached back in January has continued to fall. We're at our lowest point in quite some time. The number of cases average per day is down to below 5. Again, a significant decrease. And so with the good news that life is beginning again, the Carolina Cup is being held, people are vaccinated and getting vaccinated, I think that we can focus on going forward and focusing on where we need to be. So it's not my intention to continue to share these reports unless hopefully God does not see fit to bring it back. So this will be my last report on it, and it looks like we've done a pretty good job.
Discussion.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
My cough, this went down the wrong pipe. It's not COVID.
You're making me nervous.
That's all I had to say.
Other discussions? I do want to say thank you to the staff, and especially led by Mr. Carpenter, in collaboration with the school system, our sheriff, our detention center, our EMS. I could go on all day. But we should all, as I started out today with our invocation, thank our good Lord. And also the vaccination and some of the courtesy and common sense among our population. I still see masks out there. It is respected if you wish to wear it. It is not a sign of a political affiliation. It is just a sign of common sense and courtesy that we respect people who wish to wear the mask and businesses. And as we see in the school district, I went over there today, they were wearing the mask over there. We'll get through this, and indeed, we will be successful. So thank you, and I think you can all join me in a round of applause for Mr. Carpenter, please. With that, we get into some really important business. Resolution and inducement resolution provided for a fee in lieu, or FELO, for Kershaw County and Project Sapphire. It's at tab D, page 9, and up on the screen. Mr. Carpenter, can you bring us along with that one?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight an inducement resolution that would provide a fee in lieu of taxes for an unnamed industry currently going by the code name of Project Sapphire. This industry would be making an investment of approximately $14 million in the county. We'll be doing first reading later on the ordinance itself, and as the weeks continue, we'll be able to share more with the council.
So we're still under a non-disclosure agreement. Let me explain, because so many people have been asking us. We've got so much success recently. We honor the wishes of the business, whether that's a business that's growing, that's already here, or the business that wants to come here. And it's not usually until the third reading that we expose that name. And the people negotiating those contracts are Mr. Carpenter and Mr. Burgess, Jeff Burgess, Economic Development. I'm brought in occasionally, and it remains to us as something that is not exposed to the public until the third reading, but it's a matter of transparency that these operations are done through the protocol of a first, second, and third reading, and finally the vote. So with that, can we have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Snodgrass, a second?
Second it.
Mr. Connell, any discussion? And we will not need or have an executive session on this issue tonight. So with that, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, and we move on to ordinances. The first item on ordinances is item number 1. It's at page 12 in this amazing package that Mary put together at tab E. And if you want a hard copy and really are into punishment, you can get one. It's the second reading of an ordinance to provide a budget appropriations. Mr. Carpenter, can you introduce the topic?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight for second reading the county's general budget for operations for fiscal year 2021-2022. It has previously been approved, first reading in title only.
Very good. We'll get it on the table, and then we'll accept amendments. Can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve second reading of a 2021-22 budget.
Mr. Tucker, a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Snodgrass. And with that, we vote to put it on the table. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. No, I guess we don't need to do that. Excuse me, I got off my thing. Mr. Snodgrass, I believe you have a motion to amend.
Sure. I was just talking about the budget. Mr. Carpenter, this current budget, I know we talked about some employee pay rises. What is built into this budget that's currently that we're reading on right now?
Currently, a 2% pay raise for all employees is in the budget.
Right. Gotcha. Well, Mr. Chair, members of council, I would move to make an amendment that we, based on our workshop discussions and some of the findings that Mr. Carpenter has for us, that we move to, I want to amend that section of the budget that we go towards a 4-3-2 tiered pay rise system for the employees. And I think if I remember right, 2%, there's 3 tiers of employees, correct, as far as where they fall in their salary scale. So
let's state the motion, then we'll get to the discussion.
Sure, absolutely. So I would make an amendment that we amend the budget so that the employee pay rise reflects the 4-3-2 plan.
Okay, a second, please.
Second.
Second from Mr. Connell. Discussion, over to you, Mr.
Sure.
Snodgrass.
So we talked about, we've got 380 so odd employees, something like that, and they all fall in different tiers with their salary. So this whole council, all 7 of us, have been from the very beginning committed to offering a pay rise to our county employees who have been so dedicated, not just during COVID, but at all times, and some haven't received a pay rise in many, many years. So we wanted to build this in. It works without a tax increase, and it's tiered in such a way that your lowest paid employees will receive the 4, mid-range receive the 3, and then your highest range receive the 2. And that's all based on our discussions that I think we've all been privy to. But that's where I am and where I think we should fall.
Okay. Mr. Connell.
I would second what Mr. Snodgrass has said. Obviously, I just did. But everything else he said after the motion. Mr. Carpenter, can you let us know, is this the highest ever pay rise en masse in the history of Kershaw County as long as you've been here?
Since I've been here, yes, sir.
Okay. It's a tough thing for county council to look at pay increases because the employees who technically work for Mr. Carpenter, they have bills they have to pay, they got food they got to put on the table, and it's a tough thing for county council to justify fee or tax increases to even keep up with inflation, which, some years can be low, some years can be high. But this is something I think we need to do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other comments?
If I may.
Yes, sir, Mr. Brazel.
What's the difference between the budgeted amount and Mr. Snodgrass's proposal, the difference in dollars per year?
About $134,000.
So it'd be an additional $134,000 to structure it with a 4%, 3%, 2% tiered pay increase.
That's correct.
Will any of the pay increases cause us to increase millage to the taxpayer?
No, sir.
So we can do this within the same amount of tax revenue that we had last year?
Yes, sir. We would just shift around spending in other areas in order to accomplish it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, other comments? Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Russell's asked one of the questions that I want to ask in reference to where the money was coming from. The other thing that I want to clarify just for the public is in this budget, anywhere is there with the pay rises or increases or anything that we're doing for our employees, are you listed in that?
No, sir.
Okay, I just want to make that clear. And then the other question, I'll save it when we get on the Harper topic.
Okay, other discussion? Mr. Jones, anybody?
Yes, if I could. Mr. Tucker, what did you say? I couldn't understand you.
I was asking
The
him, was
last
he
comment.
included into this budget of the pay rises for the employees in the one that was proposed by him or the amendment that Mr. Snodgrass is making? And his answer was no.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, other discussion?
Right quickly.
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
Of course, this is an amendment to the budget, and we'll go back and we'll amend this, and we'll talk about the budget. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. No comment, no question.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? I think we can move on that to a vote.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
This was the other thing, right quick. Is there any fees? Because some people think fees is a pay rise either. Is there any fees? We talked about the millage. Is there any fees to increase what we're trying to do with the pay rise for the
No
for the
increase in
employees?
fees is connected to the pay rise.
Okay,
No, sir.
thank you.
Okay, very
Can we-
good. Let's
Can we
move-
clarify one more point while we're here? Does anybody at this table get a pay rise?
No, sir. No members
Good
of council
question.
got a pay raise.
I just wanted to make that clear for the public.
Well, Danny,
Thank you.
But he's talking about the elected officials.
All right, very good. We move to a vote on the motion to install the 432 pay rise in addition to those others already in the budget. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. Mr. Snodgrass's amendment passes. Any further discussion on the budget? I neglected to say it's on page 12 and on the screen, and it's also in the second packet that Mary put together. In the second package, right, Mary, on page 99 or somewhere. But all right, any further discussion on the budget?
Mr. Chair, just
Yeah, Mr. Snodgrass.
Mr. Carpenter, so the money, the other employee money that we were going to use from the American Recoveries Act, that's implied into the budget as well. That
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's a separate part of the budget.
the bonus,
part of the
but
budget.
the money that's coming in from that's already built in, so we
Yes,
don't
that's
need.
correct.
Okay.
Other discussion?
And as we discussed with making sure that it's, we've adjusted so they get the full amount as close as we can to that, to the number for their,
201.
yeah, for getting the full 2,000 bonus for
Yes, sir. That's
full
correct.
time. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of County Council. Mr. Carpenter, in the budget, I know you've clarified that there is no fee, excuse me, or millage connected to the employee increase. Is there any new fee or connected millage in the budget we're going to vote on tonight?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Under the fire budget does show an increase in fees to the households as well as the vehicles.
How much is that?
$31 per,
Goes up $31.
yes, sir. An increase $31 per improved parcel and $10 per vehicle.
And that's for the fire. And then the road maintenance, excuse me, the vehicle, the road maintenance fee.
That was the $10 per vehicle, yes.
That's the $10 per vehicle. It's 35 now, correct? And it goes up to 45?
No, sir. It's 30, the road maintenance fee will remain 35. There will be a $10 fire fee on vehicles. The total
Okay.
amount of fees will be 45, but it goes to two different funds.
So there'll be a $31 fee increase on the fire fee, and there'll be a $10 fee per vehicle for the fire service as well.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, are there any connected millage within that fire
Within the
budget?
fire, there is
1/10?
about 5/10 of a mil.
5/10 of a
Yes,
mil? So there's a slight little millage increase on that.
That's correct.
Okay. I just want to make some comments. I propose by motion at council to authorize the administrator to provide alternatives for the sale of the sewer system and procedures to sell it. I propose to the I propose to use the money from the sale to eliminate sewer tax and use the new revenue for sewer, sheriff, fire, and EMS. Council refused my proposal to sell the sewer system. Mr. Tucker proposed by motion for administration to propose how to expand and finance the sewer system to meet present and future needs. I voted for this motion since my motion failed. We must eliminate the unfair sewer tax. I never supported the unfair sewer tax. I still don't support it. Elimination of the sewer tax will happen if we sell the sewer system. County Council will not adopt my proposal to sell the sewer system. And at present, there is really no proposed way realistically to eliminate or do away with the sewer tax. Selling the sewer system is a win-win for Kershaw County, and it's a win for the taxpayers. Now, I say this. You say, well, what has this got to do with what we're talking about? One, it's the budget. Two, we're talking about fire service. I support fire service. I support funding the fire service. I just don't support funding it the way some of the others on council have moved. So therefore, I will not be supporting anything that has a fee increase or a tax increase in it. Especially when I made a proposal, I felt like they would have solved this situation totally. Thank you.
All right, other discussion?
Yes, sir.
Please, Mr. Brazel.
Mr. Jones, thank you for bringing that up. I just
You're welcome.
had a moment in which I thought to myself, it's a good time to discuss fire with a room full of individuals who are very curious. So I'm going to ask a series of questions, and if you would just answer my questions, and if we can find a way around the fee.
Are you talking to me or? Oh, Mr. Carter.
But this is to your point and to your discussion as well. Can we use any FELO money to fund county fire legally?
Yes, sir.
So there is a way that we can move money from FELO into the fire budget to fund the needs.
Once a millage is turned into a fee, then council controls where that fee gets spent, and it's not governed therefore by Act 388. Yes, sir.
Okay. So we do have a way to fund the county fire. We just don't have enough revenue. Did we introduce an alternative solution to eliminate the sewer tax in a previous budget?
It's been discussed, yes, sir.
Do you think that's feasible? Do we have a feasible alternative to Mr. Jones' plan of selling?
I believe that the sewer tax could be replaced and could be paid off, but it'll still take a little bit of time that won't coincide with the current budget process, but I do think it's feasible, yes, sir.
We set a goal in a couple of meetings ago to have it done within a year, if I'm recalling
Yes,
correctly.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
If we sold the sewer system, I took a drive earlier this week, yesterday morning, drove to Lexington, and I couldn't get around. I was pretty frustrated with the amount of traffic and the amount of construction that was on the road. Nothing against Lexington, beautiful area. My concern with the privatization of sewer would be that our county would be overrun with development, and we would soon live in an area such as Lexington or Blythewood. It'd be houses on top of houses, and I've been told that we control that. Well, not really. Development's coming. We just have to prepare. I don't want to live in one of those communities. I grew up in the country, and I kind of like it that way.
Can I call a point of order? I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
I'd
Yeah,
like
what
to
is
finish
your
my
point of
thought
order, please?
process.
Hold on. Mr. DeBose, now, since he abstained from voting on the sewer, can he discuss it here tonight in the budget process?
I think he's discussing it as part of the budget,
Discussing it, but he can't
And
make a
he
motion.
can do that.
as part of the budget.
Got you.
Yeah.
And I welcome your comments. I just want to make sure we are following proper protocol. Thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that there are other solutions available. And I also wanted to clarify that, is there another way to fund the fire? That's been a very frustrating situation for me as well. I mean, I have tossed and turned over that because I want to see people in rural areas have fire protection. If I have a house fire, I want to know I can call 911 and we'll have fire trucks dispatched. I stopped by the Pine Grove Fire Station after a meeting one night, and I talked to him. I said, look, this doesn't have anything really in here for us. And he said, yeah, but we got to get it going. He said, we've had situations in which there was a child that lost his life in a car fire just a couple of miles from Pine Grove Fire Station because there was nobody there. It's all volunteer-based. So as much as I want to save and preserve tax dollars, I want to save and preserve lives. So this is a conflicting thing. I don't think there's any perfect solution, but I appreciate Mr. Jones' solutions. I hope he appreciates my approach, and I hope we can come to a consensus as a group, as a body, in a positive manner that keeps everybody in Kershaw County safe. And I don't want to see 150,000 people in Kershaw County in 10 years. If somebody wants that for this county, run against me, because that's not what I see Kershaw County as. And as long as I'm sitting in this seat, I'm going to help preserve the wonderful community that I was born and raised in. Thank you, sir.
All right. Other comments? Mr. Snodgrass, please.
I want to clarify something. I got my fire service speech and my lecture ready, and I didn't know. I thought I was going to have to be able to save it until when we actually do the fire fee, and maybe I'll get a chance to. You'll hear it twice. I'm not sure. I like preaching things twice, But we have to remember. Really? Yeah. I want to remind. So we talk about the fire service. We're talking about the Kershaw County Fire Service, and it's the district which encompasses the Kershaw County Fire Service. It's not the entire county. All right. It is the unincorporated areas of the county, including the town of Elgin and those areas that are not served water by the city of Camden. So if you live in East Camden and you have a city water bill, you're not going to see this fee because you're paying actually a lot more, by the way. You're paying a lot more of a fire fee on your water bill because you're in the Camden Fire Service. If you live in Lugoff, you're in the Lugoff Fire Service District and you're paying more than what is being proposed here. So I want to make sure we're all clear that this fee is for the Kershaw County Fire Service, which is separate from the budget. This is separate from the general fund budget. And so the reason I can't take money from Shane, not that I would want to, but the reason I can't take money from recreation and say, well, firemen are more important than recreation, let's give it to these fire guys, is because the recreation budget comes from the general budget, which is paid by all citizens. And so I can't take money from a Lugoff citizen or from a Camden citizen and pay for a service that they cannot get or they cannot use. And so this is why fire funding is very, very tricky. And I give this lecture about once a year. And it's something I learned, I'm with you, Russell. It is frustrating, the constraints that are on this. And if you want to know more about this, I can tell you all about it. But just be mindful that this is for the Kershaw County Fire Service, and it's way more complicated than just, well, take money from the library or take money from here. It's a separate pot. It's a separate fund in which the state of South Carolina has rules and regulations on it. This is why we were wanting to get S401 through the General Assembly, is because we could give us the ability to do millage instead of fee. Millage is more fair. Millage is more equitable. Millage helps those who are under the homestead. And I believe we're going to get there. It's at second reading now, and it'll pick back up next year, and we'll get it through, and then we can make the switch from fee to millage. I got a feeling that we'll be talking about this again, but just want to make sure that we're all on the same page as we talk about fire. Same thing with sewer. Mr. Jones, good idea, compelling argument. Let's sell the sewer. Let's get a check. Let's get money. But at the same time, there's still some legalities of, can you take sewer district money, which includes people not in the Kershaw County Fire Service, can you take that money and can you operate a fire service with it? There's still questions about that. We don't have the answers to that. You could perhaps do some capital projects, but perhaps you can't do operation projects. And so it's just not as simple as that. In addition, for me, I had reservations about the sewer plan because in the day and age of Santee Cooper and a failed SCANA debacle, I'm just a little bit leery of giving control to our sewer system to an outside company, to a private company who's not South Carolina based, who's out of state based, and then on top of that, they're controlled by some stockbrokers on the New York Stock Exchange. So there was just too many unknowns there with that plan. If we come back with a plan that's a little bit more defined, perhaps it's a little bit more compelling. But for me, that's kind of where I am on the sewer. That's kind of where I am on the fire, and I got a feeling that you'll be hearing this again either later tonight or the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, other comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. Connell.
I just, clarification from Mr. Carpenter, Mr. DeBose. Fire operations, and by that I mean personnel, they can be paid for through fire millage, through a fee specifically associated with fire, and legally, what else?
Well, the county can again allocate fee in lieu revenue to whatever source or whatever outcome they wish to. So you could use fee in lieu revenues.
Is that the only other areas or anything else? Just wondered. Want to make sure. Okay.
Mr. Carpenter, let me ask you a series of questions. Do we have a bid on the fire and sewer system?
No, sir.
Do we know what the sewer system is worth?
No, sir.
Okay. And if we started today, we couldn't finish any of these recommendations within this budget cycle, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. So we're talking about something we can't do right now, and that's why Mr. Tucker presciently introduced a motion that we all agreed to unanimously, that we would take a study of this going on, because it's a difficult, complex topic to take over multi-million-dollar assets. So I just want to set that framework that is not in the realm of possibility this time around. Secondly, I would say that we have work to do on our fire, and the immediacy of that we agreed on through a very fine fire study that some of the members on this board conducted, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, and here we are. The next point is I met last night with the governor and the speaker, and I said to them what I'm saying to you now, that most of the moral dilemmas at platoon headquarters, or at county headquarters are caused by the generals at the higher level. And the issue that we have before us is a moral, physical, fiscal, and practical dilemma imposed on us by the people in the State House who don't have the moral fortitude. I didn't use anything derogatory so far. How am I doing?
You're doing good. Be
The
proud.
fortitude to step up and help the counties where the action is down here. So we're being asked to do, quote unquote, a fire sale, if you'll pardon the metaphor, on some valuable property without having any idea how much it's worth or a bid. So I would tell you there are legislative issues that I ask you people who are active in the political world to take up and ask people in the State House why you allowed Act 388 to be passed while I was out on the East German border with a very inadequate force facing the Russian division. And I'll just tell you, that's the issue. Our basic problem as a county is we got a lot to do, and some of it's vital as in life-saving, like EMS, sheriff, and fire. And we're not given the resources to do it, and here we see goodwill, sometimes, as one of our speakers says, aggravated sometimes, but goodwill people trying to sort out an impossible situation as best we can. And the solution we have in front of us, because of inadequate legislation, and was not passed this year through the activities of certain people in the House and Senate, it didn't get through to allow us to do the a much more equitable, sustainable, enduring approach. So I salute Mr. Jones's idea of selling the sewer, but we don't have an offer. And right now, we don't know how much worth. So we have a budget in front of us that we need to act on. So that's my little piece. And we're going to come, if you'll look on the agenda, item number 6, under ordinances, is where we come to that topic. So we're a little bit ahead of ourselves, but the context of the budget needs to be shifted slightly. Let me go to a slightly different context. Through the efforts of Mr. Brazel and Mr. Connell and others, we put upon ourselves the mission to restructure our finances and remove much of the debt that we as a county have. That's kind of missing from this discussion. When we realize that these legislature under Act 388, which is a state house thing that we don't have much control over, the county council, through Mr. Brazel and others, Mr. Connell and others, and Mr. Snodgrass and Mr. Tucker and everybody, decided we were going to restructure our finances to remove the millage debt that is associated with the debt the county had over the years. And you would ask why we have a debt. Well, that's how you run counties. You got to kind of go in a little bit in debt, and we figured we could do away with much of that. I'm going to ask Mr. Carpenter to just summarize that in less sentences than I just used about how you did that. Please, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, as you recall, when we sold our last bond issue, the economic development bond, we built into it the ability to pay that off early without any kind of a penalty. There's a rule when the government sells bonds, they're sold for a fixed period of time and the investors count on that money coming in. They don't want them sold early back to us. So we built into it the provision that allowed us to pay them off early. So what we have done is using available money on hand, we will be what they call defeasing several of the bonds, paying them back, and consolidating the remainder of the bonds into a single bond that we'll put back out on the market to take advantage of our currently low interest rates, which are lower than they were when they were sold as far back as 2008, 2010. So by restructuring our bonds, we'll be able to free up approximately 7.3 mils of millage that is currently on the books that citizens have been paying that then council has been able to use to address other issues in the budget.
I wish those were the headlines, but that is the good news in this budget. And it's an exemplary effort by our legal team and Mr. Carpenter and, of course, Sandra in getting this done. And I just congratulate you on that. Mr. Jones, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. I'm trying to figure out where to start. Since we just said about the 7 mills cleared up, where would we transfer that 7 mills to?
It's divided among several parts of the budget. We already mentioned half a mil to fire. That's all the law will allow us to raise the fire millage. So half of the mills go to the fire. Approximately 1 mil to the...
You're doing a great job, but I think you've made my point. Bottom line is the taxpayer's still going to be paying for it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We talk about S401 bill through the Senate, how disappointed some were. I was not disappointed because if that bill passed, it would take the cap off Act 388 and Kershaw County could raise the millage probably as high as they wanted. Am I correct on that?
Only on fire.
I understand that, but I mean, could they not raise it unlimited?
Yes, for a period of 2 years, council would
Right.
one time be able to raise
That's
it.
I wouldn't want to have for a period of 2 days. We talk about privatization and we talk about county government ran. I've always been a believer that private business could do a better job than government. And I've said this before up here, and I'll say it again too. If you don't believe, look at healthcare, look at the post office. I mean, I think UPS was a part of that revitalization. The problem I have with the fee too, folks, is that a fee hits those 65 and over worse. they get hit harder. And, you know, I did some numbers a while back, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, that in a fire district, a senior citizen who owns a $100,000 home pays $52 in total taxes, and a $200,000 house pays $104 in taxes, county taxes. That same senior citizen who owns a $100,000 home in the fire district county, or a $200,000 house in the fire district, and let's just say owns 2 cars, which is average, that's $179 in fees already. So we got $179. We're already paying more fees than we are taxes, but we're fixing to add some more fees, and that's where I have a problem. I'm not against expanding and revitalizing our fire service. Bottom line is, I just don't agree with the funding method. I presented a solid funding method to say that this sewer, whether my plan was valid or not, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I'm trying to remember everything that everybody said, but when you talked about we couldn't do it, well, there was no offer made by this county council to ask you to go find out if it would work or not, you know, when it came to that. That I'm pertaining to selling the system now. I know Mr. Tucker made another motion, but I'm talking to sell the system. You know, that was unfair because we made no offer for that. Nobody would accept that. You know, here's what we're faced with, folks. We're going to keep the sewer system. We're going to increase the fire fee. And, oh, by the way, let me just say this too. You know, in West Watery, I'm not even going to use a tragedy to justify my means, okay? But let me just tell you this. In West Watery, we have an agreement with the Lugol Fire Department, and any structure fire, and they run any fire anywhere for $15,000 a year. They're running every fire that happens in West Watery that's a structure fire. And if truth be known, they're running all the rest of them as well, car fires as well. Just look around and see. So that's where we stand on that. And I think that's probably part of the reason why they were talking about doing the fire department in Cassett. I always said that if it was going to pass, it need to do it in Shepherd. You know, I think Shepherd would be a better location to start with. Mr. Browser made some very, very valid comments about his concern about the West Watery up at the lake area, you know. And so we all have concerns, and we all care. You know, bottom line is nobody on this council doesn't want to see our fire service get better. But I go back to saying, how do you spend money you don't have? Well, you raise taxes. You can't raise taxes because of the law like Act 388. You create fees. We've done a good job at that, as I've just now, I think, illustrated with my research and comments that came from finance. I just think it's a bad time to do that. I think there are other ways to do it. But, you know, we talk about growth with the sewer. You know, we control the growth. That, to me, that's just rhetoric. We control the sewer. We would be able to control the growth. If we sold the sewer to a private, we could control it because we own planning and zoning. I mean, anyway, we own We own planning and zoning, and so we control the growth. If you don't believe it, go ask some of these local businesses that. Excuse me, are you taping me? I mean, it's okay if you are, but anyway, listen. What I'm saying is that we never gave the sewer sale an opportunity. We never gave it an opportunity, and that's okay. I accept it. This council voted. But I'm not going to sit here and be labeled that I don't care about life and safety because I'm not going to create a new fee. I take a little bit of issue with that, not personally, because I'm not going to take anything personal up here. I'm a very gentle, kind person. But that's what sometimes I feel like is trying to be said. But I think we all care about fire. We all care about lives. We just don't agree on the funding of it. You know, and we talk about the proposal to eliminate the sewer district, to conduct a sewer rate study to assess current operational debt, capital needs. And when you talk about to assess all mid to long-term operational debt and capital needs to determine rates necessary to allow stability of operations, and you try to determine about the direction of addressing a 2008 bond, what revenue are we talking about with the 2008 bond? You know, bottom line, if you do away with the sewer tax district, which is in the unincorporated areas of Kershaw County, which I did not agree with then, don't agree with now, never agree with in between. If you do away with the tax district, you're going to shift it maybe to was there some talk about a revenue bond or some kind of bond, Mr.?
If you were to issue debt and you did not have a millage, then yes, there would be a revenue.
Because we can't just do away with the sewer district unless it's paid for some other way, correct?
Yes, sir.
And if you do a bond, now remember, the sewer tax district's just in the unincorporated areas. If you do a bond, everybody would be paying for that, right?
Well, a revenue bond would only be paid for by the customers on the sewer system.
Right.
And if we did a rate study, and I know our fees are low, but bottom line is if we do a rate study, I'll be willing to say that our fees are going to double or triple to support that system. You know, anyway, you look at it, here's what it boils down to, folks. And I know they're going to come back on me all pretty hard here, but anyway, I can take it. So dish it out because I'm going to stand my ground on this one. We're going to go ahead and do the fire fee, folks. We're going to keep the sewer system, not even entertain selling it, okay? But we are doing a study. Thank you, Mr. Tucker, for that. We do have that, and I do support seeing that. But what's going to happen is that you're going to get an increased fee. We don't have adequate sewer capacity right now. If you go to DHEC, check, I think we're, 80%, whatever, 85, 90% capacity. So we're going to have to expand from a 2 MGD, that's 2 million gallons a day, to a 4. That's going to probably cost, I know the numbers used to run about 12 to 15,000, but it's been so long ago since that study, it's going to probably be more like 20 or 25,000. I say this realizing that if I'm wrong, it could come back on me. But bottom line, I'm not wrong on that. So you're going to look at it, we got to expand $20,000, okay? Then we got the Southern Loop that we're doing right now to increase our flow. That's $7 million. Where does it stop?
Can I have a?
Excuse me. Yes, sir, you can, but I've got the floor. And I'm trying to be very polite about this. But to sit there and say that that a private company probably wouldn't respond to calls of smell as quick as us, or we would not be able to control the growth. There's members on this county council who tried to start subdivisions themselves. I won't call no names, but let me tell you something. We control planning and zoning. We can determine who is and who is not going to build. I mean, it's as simple as that. Well, I'm going to leave it at that for the moment in case something else is brought up that I need to respond to. But Mr. Chairman, members of council, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Mr. Brazel.
So I think we talked about the alternative, and I think it may have been in the paper. If anybody reads the paper, I don't read the paper that often. It spelled out how it would, if we did a study, I guess we got to do a study. I'm not a fan of studies. To let the sewer, which is what, an enterprise fund, is that what it's called? It would, once we alleviated the tax is $525,000 a year. We identified half of that already. We're going to do a rate study to identify the rest of it. So I don't know why we have to, I said in budget this morning, I feel like we've talked about this thing. It's like we've beaten a dead horse here. We've got a pretty solid alternative that maybe we can agree on. I just don't understand, and maybe I'm missing something. If we've got an alternative that will alleviate the tax on the sewer system, what is the driving force behind the fact that you want to sell it?
You asking me a question?
Yes, sir.
First off, what numbers do you have? I don't think you have any numbers at this moment.
Well, no, they were in our budget. They were in our worksheets.
What's the numbers? What's the revenue? Now, but hey, listen, we got a $6.5 million debt, correct?
Yes, sir.
With sewer, $6.5 million debt. We're also spending $7 million on the Southern Loop, correct? And then we got to expand for 25 million, correct?
That number keeps creeping up.
Well, it's yes.
And I don't think we have a clue what it would cost.
I don't think we have a clue where this money's going to come from.
Well,
I will say this, though. Can I say something, Ms. Browser?
Yes,
We're having
yes,
you and I having a great conversation.
I enjoy having dialogue with you.
I likewise. But you know
I like
what?
watching.
Let me say this. You know, it was quoted that I have a bromance with the sewer. I have a bromance with the taxpayers of Kershaw County.
Let me ask you a direct question.
Sure.
Have you ever accepted funds from any of these private sewer companies for your campaigns?
You know what? I'm going to tell you something. I am insulted that you would sit there and ask me such a question like that.
I'm just asking a
First
question.
off, let me just tell you this, and I want to make myself clear to you, Mr. Brazel. You go check my ethics. There has never been one thing that I've done wrong on my ethics in the last 15 years. There's some people up here that can't say that. Now, you want let's get personal. There's some people up here that can't say that. Let me say something else too, Mr. Brazel. When we talk about employees and the fight we had. No, sir,
this is
you will
getting
not
personal.
shut me down on this one.
This
He
is
just
getting
attacked
personal.
my integrity.
This is getting personal.
Yes, no, sir, this is not
getting
personal. This is
Talk
not,
the issue.
You're not going to shut me down on this one.
Talk the issue.
I am talking the issue. He just asked
I'm
me.
okay with- I just
I don't care.
I asked
You are
him a
not.
very touchy question.
No, it's not a very touchy question. I cannot be bought for $500 or $1,000, folks. It's as simple as that. I cannot be bought for $500. And to sit here and insinuate is absolutely absurd. And Mr. Brazel, I am absolutely, I just can't tell you how you just moved down in my list.
All right, that's
I said, no, Mr. Chairman, you
We're
are
at the
not going
point
to
of
shut me
calling-
up.
we're at the
No, you're
point of
not.
calling the question.
No, you're not. And I'll tell you something, this
We're
man
gonna-
right here, we sit here and we talk about the employees, and they want to fight us about the employees, giving them a little bit of extra money. That's a lot of extra money, but it's well worth it. It comes from the federal government. They gave it to us, the COVID relief fund. There are employees here that can't build a house in Edisto, a home, summer home in Edisto. There are people, there are employees that they're trying to make they decide, are we going to pay our light bill or are we going to pay our rent? There's folks out there that can't drive a brand new $80,000 or $70,000 truck. And there's employees out there that weren't raised with families that were able to provide them with everything they needed. They struggled.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you something. I'm an open book. You can call ethics. You can look at every dollar that I've ever gotten. Stan Jones gave me a $500 contribution. But I can promise you this, Stan Jones can't buy me. Skee-Ball Williams gave me a $500 contribution. You know what? He was my friend, but he can't buy me. That is insulting. That is personal. That is insulting. And I'm going to tell you something. My proposal is not about any sewer company that I'm dealing with now has never made a proposal. South Carolina Water Utilities, never took a dime from them. I would if they offered me $500 because I'm running next year, folks. I'm running. I'll take a donation from anybody because you know why? You can't buy me with $500.
All right, we're moving on.
No, we're not moving on.
We are
No,
done.
no,
We're
we're
done
not.
with political
No, we're
decisions
not.
and political
We're
discussions.
not moving on.
Call the question.
We're going to call the question.
Well, let me tell you what I'm going to do.
And with that,
no,
are there
you're not
any
going to call the
further
question. I'm not going to be quiet, Mr.
With
Chairman. I am
those-
not going to
with
be
that,
quiet.
we move to a
You
vote.
can go ahead with what you want to do.
All
I will
those
not
in
stand
favor
for it. You're not
of
going to
the
call for the
budget as
question right
amended,
now, Mr.
signify by
Chairman.
raising your
You
hand.
just had an individual here personally
Raise your
attack
hand.
me.
I do have a question.
And
All
I'm
right, you do have a question.
Unrelated, but it is on
Unrelated.
the budget.
Okay,
Go
let's
ahead,
go ahead,
Dan.
Mr. Connell.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify, whenever the vote is called, and we do vote, is that addressing the ARPA funds right now?
Yes.
Yes, it
Okay,
does.
so I'm going to support the budget tonight in second reading, as we do with rezonings and those kind of things, while you still have some due diligence to do. There's additional guidance, I understand, that's come out through telephone calls or additional paperwork that would be in addition to the packet we got as of May 10, 2021. And so I got to do some more research.
Yeah.
Generally, I was just going to say on ARPA, the funds which have been designated as hero funds are actually called premium pay, and third-party companies, private businesses in the community are eligible for them. So again, as I mentioned in the budget meeting this morning, we're taking a subset of essential workers, 371 in Kershaw County, and deciding to set aside $1.2 million to give them bonus pay. By the way, I clarified with Mr. DeBose in between our budget meeting and now that you are allowed, in fact, to do a one-time payment, correct, Mr. DeBose?
Yes.
Unrelated to ARPA. So to the extent council wanted to do that in the past, or even now, you're able to do that from the county's budget. I remember Mr. Jones and others saying they thought that, I just understand it is possible. I remember getting some other different education or instruction on that in the past. So I will support the budget tonight, but I do plan on introducing some amendments based on the ARPA funds, particularly their use, and I'll discuss fire a little bit later when it comes up on the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And with that, the question is called. All those in favor of the budget as amended signify by raising your hand. And it's Mr. Connell, Mr. Burns, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Tucker, and Mr. Snodgrass in favor. Those opposed, Mr. Brazel and Mr. Jones. The budget on second reading passes. Looking forward to amendments in 2 weeks. With that, we move to the next item, which is item 2, second reading of an ordinance authorizing a fee low. It's tab F. It's on the screen and page 44. I don't know how you do it, Danny, but we're on page 40. No, it's on page, it's page 44. With that, Mr. Carpenter, please open it up, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight for second reading an ordinance that authorizes the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax and the special source revenue credits for a project that is known as Project Falcon. Previously, council has approved this on first reading.
We look for more details and discussion. Can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve second reading on Project Falcon, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tucker, a second?
Second.
From Mr. Snodgrass. A little more detail, please, on what we're into here, Vic, and then we'll move to a discussion.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of council. Again, Project Falcon was looking to make an investment of approximately $19 million total. Capital investment approximately $23 million, of which $19 million is in machinery and approximately $4 million is invested.
Gentlemen, can we just be
No, you
quiet?
cannot.
Gentlemen.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
All right, go ahead,
Most
Mr.
of those
Carpenter.
you know.
Go ahead.
Look, you don't need to apologize to me.
All right, go ahead, Mr.
Go ahead.
Carpenter. We apparently have some people want to talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wanting to talk, but
Yeah.
I'll
Later,
go ahead and
please.
yield.
Go
now.
ahead.
Mr. Chairman, again, a total investment of $23 million, of which approximately $19 million is machinery and equipment, and $4 million is invested in real property.
All right, discussion, please. Any? Okay, looks like this one's pretty straightforward.
Let's vote.
And we look forward to seeing who this is on the third reading. With that, let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Mr. Connell, it looks like it's unanimous. We'll move forward with the next item. Mary, that passes unanimously. Item number 3, second reading of an ordinance authorizing incentive agreements on goalpost. It's on page 51. It's on the screen, and it's at tab G in your enclosures. Mr. Carpenter, we'll get to you in a minute. Can you tell us what it is?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, yes, members of council, again, in front of you for second reading tonight is an ordinance authorizing the execution delivery of a fee in lieu agreement between Kershaw County and a project known as Project Goalpost. The company is anticipating investing approximately $150 million in a facility here in the county.
With that, all right. Can we have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Snodgrass, a second.
Second. I yield to Mr. Gardner.
Mr. Gardner, any further discussion from you, Vic, and we'll begin discussion up here.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Snodgrass?
I just want to quickly say, I know if you're in the gallery, you're thinking, man, they're voting through this stuff, not even talking a whole lot about it. Just want to remind people, this is still part of proprietary information that these companies want us to withhold. They ask this of us till we get third reading. Some of the information we've been able to discuss executive session, but just want to make that clear. And the second point, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I think it's significant that this is the third. So this is the third industrial philo that is on our agenda tonight, and there's been a lot of talk about sewer and what happened 12 years ago and what didn't happen, and I think it's important to understand that the larger idea of sewer those years ago was really about industrial development. That they recognized that in order to bring industry here, we've got to make a significant investment into our sewer infrastructure because these large companies obviously require a lot of sewage capacity. And so talk about whether it's sewer tax or industrial tax, whatever you want to call it, I just want to point out that we're beginning to see some things come back to the county, some from the investments that we've made. And I can tell you, now that we've made those, we're getting that, I'm committed to exploring ideas of how do we adjust that quote unquote sewer tax, because I'm just as committed as anyone else to change that and to take that off of folks who perhaps won't see sewer in their side of the county, but the whole county came together and we were committed to developing industry in our county, and we are seeing that. We're beginning to see the fruits of our labor come to be. And so it's the proof is in the pudding, as this is the third and probably more that are coming our way, the third announcement that we're about to announce. So this is really, really exciting for Kershaw County.
Other discussion? Ready for a vote? Thank you, Mr. Snodgrass. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. We move on to item number 4, second reading of another ordinance, a purchase and sale agreement for Project Goalpost. It's on page 77, Annex H. Mr. Carpenter, can you introduce it, and then we'll move to a vote.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight for second reading an ordinance that allows the county to sell real property to the entity known as Project Goalpost.
Very good. Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Snodgrass, a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Connell. Discussion? I think we've been through this one already, and let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. Mary, we move to item number 5, which is a first reading of an ordinance authorizing execution of a fee agreement on Project Sapphire. It's on page 96. It's also on your screen and at tab India I. With that, Mr. Carpenter, can you just introduce it, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have tonight for first reading an ordinance that authorizes the execution and delivery of a fee agreement between Kershaw County and a project known as Project Sapphire, making an investment of approximately $14 million. We previously passed the inducement resolution at the beginning of the meeting.
Very good. Can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tucker, a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. Any further discussion from your side, Vic, or can we move to a discussion here? Any discussion up here? As Vic said, we already passed the inducement resolution earlier at tab D on the same item. This is a bit of on a roll here. So with that, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify. And it's unanimous, Mary. We can move on to the second reading. Now we move to item number 6, first reading in title only, to place in effect a fee for fire. There is no enclosure, no attachment. Mr. Carpenter, can you introduce it, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight for first reading in title only an ordinance that would allow the increase in imposition of fees related to the Kershaw County Fire Services District.
Very good. Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Second
Mr. Snodgrass. A second?
Second.
Yeah, Mr. Connell. With that, Mr. Snodgrass, do you want to open up?
Sure. I think we've discussed the fire service in previous discussions, and again, just remind everyone, this is for the Kershaw County Fire Service, which includes the unincorporated areas of the county not already under a fire contract, be it City of Camden or Lugoff Fire Service. And another interesting point is that when we were in the budget process, we've been talking about this for years now, but when we realized that this was going to be a need in order to continue our fire plan, in order to give 24-hour service to Blaney, which would be the hub that spokes out to that side of the county, and then in order to build and to staff 24-hour service eventually at Cassett Fire Station, which is going to be the hub, which spokes out to places like Bethune and Antioch and Charlotte Thompson and Shepherd, those areas. We knew that we were facing this, and honestly, the fire staff they came at us with a little bit different fee structure, and at least I did. I told him, I said, Mr. Carpenter, we gotta look at this again. We can't. We need to. I know we have a big wish list, but we got to bring it down and come within our means. And so I'm satisfied with where we came with this. And again, I would encourage you, if you have contact with our legislators, to let them know that to continue to support S401. It was talked about earlier about our residents who are 65 and older. I understand that and feel that, but please know, If we switch this to millage, then those who are 65 or older will not be as impacted as much because their homestead exemptions will then kick in because they're under millage and not a fee. Secondly, encourage them to pass this because I don't know about you, but I'm about local control and I'm about liberty and I'm about knowing what's best for Kershaw County is at this desk and not up at Columbia. And so for all of us who talk about liberty and local control, that's what S401 is all about. Because I'm convinced that it's this desk that knows what's best for Kershaw County and not Columbia or not Washington, D.C. That's how we work in this county, or that's how we work in this state under Home Rule Act of 1975-ish. Mr. Bose, correct me on that year.
Yes, more or less.
Thank you. So tonight, I'm happy to, I'll be supporting this. And I will be supporting the fire service, not only with my mouth, but with my hand.
Mr. Connell?
Please. I yield. Go ahead.
No,
All
I'm
right,
not,
Mr.
you go
Jones,
first.
ahead,
Okay.
please.
Sound like a broken record on this one, but the calls that we receive and have to respond to have increased exponentially. So it was a data point that we initially looked at starting 4+ years ago. The fire service had outdated technology, so we updated the technology so we could actually track responses and then see what personnel and equipment we needed to address those responses within the safety requirements nationally and locally that you have. So that's where all this started with the fire study that we had in the subcommittee. And with any taxpayer expenditure, you want to make sure you're getting value on it. So I'll share again, I've asked staff to correct me if at any point I've got some numbers that are off. These are pre-COVID numbers. We haven't received the updated ones, but Camden Fire covers about 8,500 people, and roughly per person, the budget is $235.59 per person. Lugoff Fire covers about 8,000 people in their service area, and their budget is roughly $165.99 per person. Kershaw County Fire's current budget is about $38 per person. That's with some full-time, mostly part-time, and then a whole bunch of volunteers. And we're trying to address all these calls that increase and continue to increase as you see these building permits go up. With the fee increase, the overall budget cost per person would be about $69 per person. So we're still over 100% less than Lugoff Fire, which, you know, my business is in that area. Mr. Jones and maybe a few others have interest in those areas. I believe they provide Class A service, but we're trying to provide full-time fire service with reasonable response times for life safety issues at that number. Now, I'm going to support this, obviously, on first reading. If there is another way, if with some of these businesses coming in, the 2 or 3, and perhaps others that are in the pipe, there's a way to use fee in lieu or some other fund to fund this and it makes sense, totally open to it. Totally open to it. But I think the most equitable way to do it is through millage. So the idea is, how do you fill the gap between what we hope will be a legislative solution that addresses 388 and where we are now and needing to move to full-time fire service? I don't say that in any way to reduce what the volunteers do. I think that everybody in the back of the room that's full-time in fire service knows we have to have them to supplement and support and in many ways be the backbone of our fire service overall. But with our growth and where we're going, it's time to move to full-time fire service throughout. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Connell.
Thank you. I think Mr. Jones.
No, go ahead.
I have a question for Mr. Connell.
Yeah, please.
You gave some interesting numbers about what service covers how many people, but I think I didn't catch how many citizens does the Kershaw County Fire Service
Oh, it's
cover?
46,000. Yeah, and that's prior to the census, right?
Right,
So
it's
we
part of
don't
the
know.
census, but they're covering 46,000 citizens
Right.
at $39 a person. Average.
Post fee, it would be 69. Right now, it's about $38.58.
Yeah.
Right. So they're, I mean, talk about getting bang for your buck.
And that's per year, I should say.
That's per year, but covering more geography and more citizens currently with 10 mills, with 10.3 mills.
Yeah, and the idea is to align us with the response times that you would have with Camden or Lugoff or other full-time fire services.
Did you know, Mr. Connell, I like this because did you know that our current fire mill is about 10.3?
Yeah.
And did you know that we're trying to transition from largely volunteer-based to what you would call a career-based fire service?
Clearly, I know that.
Right. Did you also know? Did you know that most most career fire services operate off of at least 26 mills, upwards to 30 mills, and even with a fee
or higher? Yeah.
So I don't know where you are, but I've always seen this as we are transforming the service. We're not just turning the screwdriver, tapping the hammer. We're doing a transformative step with this fire service, and I think that's why it's a big step, but it's needed. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That was very, very helpful. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bill that's in the Senate, give me some definition on that, if I could, Mr. Snodgrass.
Definition?
Yeah, in other words, what would be accomplished if the bill passed 401, if it got through the...
If S401 got third reading, and that one senator took off the contested calendar, then across over the House, if it passed, it would give us that one-time shot to reset the millage. Because currently the way Act 388 works is you can only raise millage based on your county growth. And in the grand scheme of things, there are some ways that I support that, because that is a mechanism, that is able to regulate. I think the intentions of Act 388 were they were looking at homes on Charleston who every time they got appraised, they were just going astronomical. But the law of unintended consequences, what happened is rural counties whose appraisal and assessment doesn't always go as well as downtown Charleston on the Battery suffered for it. So if this passed, this is what you get for asking a preacher a question, because
you
if
said
it passed,
you said what I need you to say.
but if it passed, then we're able to reset the reset the millage.
Correct.
And give us a workaround.
Correct.
Act 388 to make it more fair and
correct.
equitable.
Well, I find you to be an honorable person, and I knew all I was doing is asking you to just give the definition that basically it would take the cap off of 388 dealing with fire, so that the county could. I just want to say this. I want to make this perfectly clear. When we were talking about the sewer to support the fire service, because it is all connected, South Carolina Water and Sewer Utilities came in here, and folks, I've never gotten any money from them. Never gotten any money whatsoever from them. So I just want to make that clear. And in my council briefing, stick around, because I'm going to have some more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? That was very helpful, Mr. Connell and Mr. Snodgrass. Laid out the options very clearly and how we're put in the box by the way the legislation is written. All right, with that, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Jimmy. And that's Mr. Connell, Mr. Burns, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner, and Mr. Snodgrass. Those opposed, Mr. Jones and Mr. Brazel. And it passes on first reading. We move on to new business. And this looks like fun. Item number 1, discussion, no vote, regarding a Lugoff dog park, a bark park. And I see the Play Foundation is well represented, placed on the agenda by Mr. Connell. Over to you, Ben, to introduce the topic.
Very glad and honored to introduce this one. So this is a piece of property. First, let me start with the Recreation Commission was bringing to council, if you'll remember a few years ago or a couple years ago, a recommendation that we have a dog park, pay to acquire property, pay to put in fencing, pay to put in any utilities, pay to put in any of the apparatus that dogs play on. This project is a property that's been donated. The fencing has been donated. All of the apparatus has been donated. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that have been given to the Play Foundation, which will hopefully on the next agenda item after we get the legalities sorted out with the deed and that easements, it'll be on the agenda to accept as a donation from the Play Foundation as a county recreation asset. Lori's here. She's leading, along with Melissa, the Play Foundation, and I just think it's great. It's just terrific. An example of someone that's a great donor in the community and is giving us an asset that will be really exciting. You got people trying to take their dogs over the now and almost throwing dogs over the fence to let them play and stuff. So we need to get it done
I think it was
quickly.
Danny taking Cam over there.
Lori, if you have something to share, please.
All right, Lori, welcome. Lori Carpenter, please, ma'am.
Thank you very much, and I just want to take a moment on behalf of the Play Foundation.
Bring the mic over, please. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to take a moment because I know that there are some very difficult decisions that need to be made, and I just want to thank every one of you for taking the time, the dedication, and making sure that Kershaw County is a great place to live. And I just would like to point out, since I have this little red clicker, look at that wonderful sign, Kershaw County, All-America City. I'm pointing down in front of Mr. Burns. As the self-nominated cheerleader of Kershaw County, I'm proud to say that. But I am Lori Carpenter. I am here as the co-chair for the Play Foundation, and I'm happy to say that a donor approached us, and of course, we love to help with community projects. So I am here to officially give information on Kershaw County's new park called the Bark Park. And in honor of the Carolina Cup, don't you just love the bow tie on the little dog? Isn't that cute? And I just want to say that dogs are people too as we begin. Just want to let you know that the state-of-the-art dog park is going to be located in the wonderful town of Lugoff, South Carolina. And as some out-of-state people, they call it Lugoff, but it is Lugoff. It's going to be at 11 East Ford Lane, which is going to be behind Dr. Allison's practice. And as Ben mentioned, 100% of the funding. It is a beautiful, which I have pictures coming up. The funding is all provided by private donations. And the maintenance and the ownership, dun, 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 we would love Kershaw County to take the ownership and provide the maintenance of the county. But of course, we have a plan. And Mr. Jones, I do apologize, but look, the citizens that use it, there is a yearly fee. We're going to be maintaining the park through the Parks and Recreation, and wonderful Shane Duncan is here. The Kershaw County residents will have a $40 fee. The reason we're doing a fee is because we want to make sure that the dogs are vaccinated. Isn't that nice? So Shane and his team are going to be doing all of the paperwork, and there is a $40 fee. That $40 fee is going to do the maintenance because we have to mow the grass. We have to keep up with those wonderful key fobs because there's going to be a key fob system. But with all of that taken care of, we know that non-Kershaw County residents are going to want to come to this dog park because we've already had a lot of inquiries. So they get to come, but it's going to cost them $50, where Kershaw County, it's only $40. See, there is a bonus to become a Kershaw County resident. Just saying. Just so that you know, here is the signs that we have out. Opening soon. We have that wonderful number that is the direct line to Parks and Recreation for Kershaw County. And then let's get to the fun part. So, the wonderful donor, Ben, is it okay if we, okay, Lugoff Automotive is the sole donor that is providing all of this. And the wonderful thing is I have this little red clicker, so you can see down here, there is going to be pavers that are in the shape of dog bones. So you will be able to donate and have a dog bone engraved with your name to help with the maintenance that's going through. If you will see here, there's a little pipe coming out. We have water fountains for people and for dogs. So you can get a drink of water the same time that Fido does, if you would like. So this is the main. There are going to be three agility, well, one agility, but there's 3 runs. The one on the left that you'll see is going to be the agility. Also, for right here that I want to say, each section has a two fenced in area, a gate. And there's also, which I just love, there's a hitch post. So you can actually keep everything there and untake the leash off of your dog before they go in. So that's the wonderful thing. And really, really cute that I love, we have dog bone benches on it. So moving forward, this is the agility area, which if you've driven by, which you can see from Highway 1, there are about 10 different sections that are in it. I know that if we took our dog there, it would probably just stay in the stroller. Yes, I do have a stroller for my dog. Just so that you know, for there that you'll see right here, there is a little water right there. We are putting in a water feature. You know, even dogs need water features and splash pads. That is going to be in the shape of a hydrant, which we thought was apropos for the dog park. So that is the water feature. If you look at the picture on the right, there is another bench. All runs have benches in there. They also have trash cans, and then they also have a dog station for there. In addition, there is irrigation for all of the runs for the grass. And then moving forward, there's a close-up. And we thank Shane in advance and Parks and Rec because they get to take care of all the trash as well on it. And then moving forward, here is the wonderful thing. They are actually going to be using an easement. There is going to be a gravel parking lot that you will see the before kind of on the left. And then on the right, we have already put the electric in there. And also we have already done some of the plumbing. The wonderful thing is in Kershaw, the city of Kershaw, they have one, but now Lugoff and Kershaw County, we're going to have the K9 3000. And if you're wondering what that is a dog wash station. So while Fido is playing with others, you can also give him a bath so that he can come in clean and not sweaty when you bring him home. All for $40 if you're a Kershaw County resident. You should, hey, y'all got to like that.
I got to stop you there. That's actually privately owned.
Yes, that one is privately owned. Sorry.
Yeah, not part of the $40. But I think that facility will hold the Wi-Fi key fob system, and it can get ported over, and so that's kind of like a utility building.
Yes, and in the back of that will be for the electric, because you have to have electric for the key fob system. So why am I here, and why is this under new business? Because currently the property for the dog park is in the Play Foundation's name, and we are just building it so they will come. And we are building it. So if you'll see, there's myself on the left, Melissa, Connie, and Mike. And if you want to know, Kershaw County is always working behind the scenes. So the shadow is Shane Duncan working behind the scenes to take our photo on that. And the reason we're here is to start the discussion so that the Play Foundation, we are almost ready for transferring the deed over to Kershaw County. So I guess we've gone from playgrounds to bark parks.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the way forward here, Ben?
I would like for staff to put it on the agenda for next meeting. I think Mr. DeBose and anyone else who's involved will hopefully have everything sorted out so that we can do a resolution or whatever type of motion is required to put that before the body for acceptance of the donation from the Play Foundation.
All right. And can you tell us who's here from the Play Foundation, Laurie?
We have Melissa, who is the co-chair, and then we have Mike Conley from Planning and Zoning. The individuals that are not present, because they've been helpful too, is Kate Goff, Allie Boykin, and Gina Marthers.
Some great names. All right, discussion. If you're all right, Ben. All right, Mr. Tucker.
Ms. Laurie, you stay there, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, council members. Two quick questions. One is, this one's for Ms. Mary right quick. I would appreciate a picture or something in our package of Fido. Next time, at least we'll have something happy in our package. We got to change that name after today, too. That wasn't an appropriate name. Your cost, why is it so compatible to the residents and non-residents? Did y'all, I'm not trying to keep other people out, but I really want Kershaw County residents to enjoy this the most.
Because we looked at other dog parks in other areas, and they had a graduated fee schedule as well. So it's more advantageous for residents of the to use it than non-residents. So that's why we had a different. You can change it if you want.
My saying is not that. I just think the outer county fee is too low, like maybe 40, 60 and still 40, 50, because I would like Kershaw County residents to have always first choice and most use of the park since it's in our county. Not that I don't love our neighbors, but, that was just a question I would ask. And the signs, when you did the Play Foundation, there were a lot of rules and regulations that went on that playground. I took my grandboys there for Mother's Day weekend. I got stuck with them. Not stuck, but.
That's recorded.
Yeah, I'm in trouble. I stay in trouble, though. It'll be okay. Are y'all going to have some rules posted on the Bark Park so people can be responsible dog owners?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And actually, one thing that I didn't go over, there is going to be a donor wall, and it is going to be fluid. So if one year, one business wants to be, the grand donor, they're welcome to
That's
it
a
as
good
well.
idea, yes.
And then also with the dog bone pavers, we just thought that was a really good way for the community to get involved and could have their dog's name in there as well.
Thank you for what all you and the foundation does, and we keep the projects coming. We really appreciate all the hard work that you guys do.
Okay.
Oh, I'll always have a project.
Okay, other comments? Ben, thank you. Lori, always a pleasure. And with the Play Foundation, something good is going to happen. Thank you very much. Look forward to this next time. All right, with that, Ben, can we move on?
Yes, sir. That's all. Thank you.
Well done, Ben. Thank you very much. The next item is item number 2, appointment to a zoning board of appeals. We have 2 persons who are expiring, and we have 1 application. It's at tab J. If you can go to the next page, Danny. Application from Mr. Ned Towle. And do we have a motion to nominate Mr. Towle? Mr. Snodgrass?
Sure, I have make a motion to nominate Ned Towle for Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay, thank you. A second?
Second.
From Mr. Tucker, any discussion? Mary?
Ned Towle is a fine, upstanding man. And I definitely support him.
High recommendation, Jimmy. Thank you.
Whose recommendation? Whose recommendation?
That was Mr. Snodgrass.
I understand that.
Yeah,
I just
thank you.
said he's a fine, upstanding
Yeah, he's
man.
good.
Thank you,
It's a
Jimmy.
high recommendation.
High recommendation.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy, it's fine. It's all right. All right, we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And Jimmy, you're going to vote? Yep, it's unanimous. Mr. Brazel is out of the room. We can record his return when he gets back. Item number 3 is a discussion and vote regarding the procedure for appointments to the Health Services District. It's at tab K, item 3, and each of you have a memorandum from me that I'm going to introduce, and I'm going to turn it over to Jimmy because Jimmy's got are we going to do a motion, Jimmy?
Mr. Chairman, I just want a
Yeah.
motion for discussion.
Okay, good. Let me just tell you what's at tab 3, and then Jimmy will take it from there. At tab 3, thanks to the statute that was passed from the Senate, and then it eventually followed through in the House, you have a memorandum that tells us our way forward on reconstituting appointments to the Kershaw County Health Services District Board. I've asked Mr. DeBose to prepare a memorandum that each of you have. In summary, it's a clean slate. We start over. And all those currently serving on the Health Services Board
Bless you.
must resubmit and their application, and all others that wish to do that must do that. And the idea is to have that here in our hands to review at the next meeting on the 8th. So we got 2 weeks to get this done, and then vote on the 22nd, which is 2 meetings from now, as to set in the new board with 9 members by the 1st of July. in staggered terms in accordance with this memoranda that each of you have. And then lastly, I'm going to turn it to Mr. Jones, but each of us get one vote, one district person to sit in a seat, and then there are 2 left over at large. So, Mr. Jones, tell us how we're going to do this.
All right, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. When I placed this on the agenda, I just want to make sure what we did tonight was set up the protocol, the guidelines as to how this was going to work. What I would like to suggest is we start 1 through 7 or either 7 through 1. And it doesn't matter either way. But let's just take, for example, 1 through 7. We go 1 through 7, and then each member of this county council will make a motion. 1 through 7, you make a motion. Now, you have 2 at large. The 2 at large would be 8 and 9. We do those by nomination. So everybody gets the opportunity to nominate somebody for the 2 at large seats. Of course, 1 through 7 gives each county council member and the chairman the opportunity to make a motion for someone that they so support. And I think it's already pretty much set up here that seats 1, 3, and 8, because it'd be 9, will serve a 2-year term, and seats 2, 4, and 9 would serve a 4-year term, and seats 5, 6, and 7 would serve a 6-year term. This would get us back on schedule where we were, or where we should be, and that's really all I wanted, is just set the process up tonight so we could do this fairly for everybody to have involvement and input into this, and we could move forward with it.
Yeah, what are your questions?
They have done a great job. Thank
That's
you.
a good summary, Jimmy. Any questions? Yeah. Mr. Tucker, start out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and council members. Thanks again, Councilman Jones and Chairman Burns. I just want to make a couple points, actually, on the process. Thank you for explaining that, Mr. Jones. The days for you getting your nomination or appointment in is only 8 days, because it has to be in by the end of next Wednesday. Am I correct, Ms. Mary? Because we meet on the 8th of June, because June comes in on a Tuesday. So that means the second Tuesday is going to be the 8th. Yeah, so it's coming fast and hard. Do remember, if it's not in the agenda packet by our meeting on June 8th, your candidate will not be eligible to be appointed. And I'm just putting stress on that because that's round the corner and it will sneak up on us before you know it. And I know with my candidate, we had to get some addresses and stuff straight because they were moving and they needed to get that. And they've done that and they're submitting their application. But I wanted to share that with my colleagues because I thought that was a crucial point.
Good.
When you're up here looking like a deer in headlights, want to know what happened. Thank you.
Can you go just to that point? And thanks, Jimmy. Well done. Do you have another slide? Go to the next one. Next page. Next page. That's it. Well, look, enclosure 3 to the memo, and Mary can give it to you, is kind of a summary of the current members under the old township method that existed back in 50 years ago, and a suggestion where the districts are. So if you familiarize yourself with that and bring your candidates in according to the districts, that will be good, okay? And that doesn't mean you can't bring in more than one, because as Mr. Jones very carefully pointed out, after we go through seats 1 through 7, keep me straight, Ken, there are 2 more seats, and we'll have maybe 5 or 6 applicants left over. So there's no harm for you to bring in more than 1 or 2. Ben, please.
Mr. Chairman, one thing just to bring up again, I guess, we've got to be cognizant of the 3-person per district rule.
Yep.
So we've got to coordinate on whoever else comes in after nomination for the other 2 seats to get us to 9.
That's right.
We can't go over 3.
Exactly, and that's also in the memo and in the statute that was passed, yeah. Other comments? Jimmy, thank you. I think that's clear as a bell. And we got some work to do in about how many days, Jim? Sammy?
8.
8. Ed Gummit, put some pressure on us.
No, sir.
All right. Well, all right. Let's move on. I think we don't need a vote on that. Or do you want to do a vote on that, Jimmy, or just?
No, we don't need a vote.
Just do an
That
agreement?
was not my intention.
I think we all agree on that. So with that, we move to council briefings. And with you, Mr. Brazel, you start off, please.
First, I want to thank everybody for being in here. Sometimes we get a little overzealous and fuss with one another. And I would like to apologize for pushing a little too hard tonight to Mr. Jones. That was an unfair question, and I think it came out wrong, to be quite honest. So we got a lot of hard work. It's a lot of frustrating topics, and we're all trying to work together to come up with solutions, and we don't always agree. And anyhow, thanks for putting up with us.
Mr. Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So exciting, just like the private, and I believe it was lieutenant that we had on the agenda tonight. It's so exciting to have positive things to talk about on the agenda. Thank you, Laurie, for coming and talking about the BART Park and some good things in recreation. That kind of stuff, the Yak the River with the River Park, is just so encouraging to me because I hear a lot of great feedback about it in the community. So thanks for everybody that participated in that. And then it's very exciting also to see the economic development interest that we have in Kershaw County right now. Not only will that result in some revenue as a byproduct, but it will result in jobs locally, hopefully, folks who are purchasing locally as well. And these are all things that we want in Kershaw County. Either you're growing or you're dying. And, you know, we need opportunities for kids when they grow up to work locally. We really do, because we experience brain drain in Kershaw County. We generally raise kids pretty well with a good moral compass, but they can't work here. So they end up having to go and move somewhere else, and they take all that great moral and intellectual capital with them to another community. And I'd love for them to have the opportunity at least to live and continue to work in Kershaw County after they finish up high school and whatever other education they get. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, thank you so much. I want to do a quick little history. You know, when I first came on county council back in 2007, I'm fighting for sewer like I fight now. And I'll never forget that we went in the back room because I was reporting hundreds of thousands of gallons of raw sewage just, you know, breaking out everywhere. And yeah, there was no public comment about it. Well, I started getting these calls, so I started asking questions in open session of county council. Well, the next thing I know, I get a call from the sheriff's department, and they say, "Are you sitting down?" And I said, "Well, I'm in Columbia." They said, "Well, you've just been accused of sabotaging, you and Randy Bowers, Frank Raven Jr. Y'all have just been accused of sabotaging the sewer system because of the leakage." So we go in executive session, and council proceeds to tell me this. And I said, "I'm going out right now, and I'm going to reveal this to the media and all God's people." They said, No, you don't want to talk about this in open session." I said, "Yes, I do. I want to talk about it." Well, needless to say, that I said, "Put me on a polygraph right quick, Sheriff. Get me out of the way. Then I want you to go after the county administrator and the other corporate that did this with the sewer and see if they'll take a polygraph." Well, they denied a polygraph, and they asked for an attorney. Well, needless to say that as this process moved forward, the county administrator was arrested and taken to our jail. But he was released. And, of course, the same county council gave them their money back for the lawyers they had to pay for, because it was all about trying to discredit my name. It was all about, but I still won my election 3-1. 3-1, I still won my election. I've served 4 terms. I have been an open book. I have never, I don't think there's one single violation I've ever done on the ethics. And as I said, I don't think everybody up here can say that. And folks, I want to tell you something. I would, heck, if South Carolina Water and Sewer Utility said, "You want $1,000 for your campaign next year?" Yeah, I'll take it, because you can't buy me for that. My thoughts are my true thoughts, regardless of how I feel. But I've never taken any money from them. Those folks that came up here, I never had a red dime from them. And I'm just very disappointed. I've always told my children all their life, a poor man has nothing but his credit and his name. And I may disagree with my colleagues up here, and I do, but I will never, ever make it as personal as it was made to me tonight to try to insinuate that I did something unethical. That is the lowest of lows anybody can do to somebody. I would never do that to him who did it to me. I'd never do it to Ben Connell, and I'd never do it to, and Sammy, you and I have had fights in here for the last 15 years, buddy. We've had some fights. You have never disrespected me in that manner. And I want to thank you for it, that we can continue to have disagreements, but not try to destroy someone, not try to destroy their character. I'm not mad at Mr. Brazel. I feel sorry for Mr. Brazel. But I'm not mad at him. And I don't think he did it on his own. I think he was put up to doing that. And because that just to me doesn't seem like his character. But it was done. I've always told my kids, you say it, it's there. You put it on Facebook, it's there. It never goes away. So be careful what you say, because we can forgive each other, but we can't forget. And I want to say this to all the people in this county who represent me. I'm 7 days, 24 hours a day. I answer my phone. I do everything I can to fight for the citizens of this community, and I am running next year. I am running. I welcome anybody who wants to run against me. Fine. If I'm beat, I'm beat. But I'm running. And I thank the people who have had confidence in me and my family. But when you attack me, you're attacking my family, the credibility of my family. And once again, I'm not angry at anybody. I might have got a little out of line responding, but I just really couldn't believe what was just being said, all because I don't support the funding mechanism for the fire service that they did. I do support funding it, but I'm going to tell you what I am going to push for third reading. I'm going to push that we do a referendum on the fire service, because when we worked together, the fire committee, ad hoc committee that Mr. Burns put together, when we worked together on that, I said from the very beginning, and there's firemen here that know I said that, well, I commit to doing a referendum before we do anything. We decide what we're going to do, and then we put it before the people and let them vote on it. Of course, that was what I said. I don't think Mr. Connell made that commitment, but I did, or Mr. Gardner, but I made that commitment, and I'm going to live up to my commitment, because it goes back to what I told my kids. You got nothing but your credit and your name, and you do what's right in this world. And once again, I thank you. I thank everybody. Thank you folks for the kind words tonight that got up here. And, to my colleagues here, I thank y'all for putting up with me and working with me through this process. I have different ideas. I'm going to continue to have different ideas. I'm not going to be intimidated or buckle down from those ideas. And I think mostly all these folks up here have very good intentions. We just have different ways of wanting to see it funded. Having to say that, I do have one other quick thing I wanted to say. And this comes from my heart when I say this. I was reading in the paper where there was I don't know if it was an attack or what, but it was talking about the local legislative delegation. And, I can remember when the legislative delegation turned over and the new senator and new House member were on board, I was told that the resident senator initially opposed a large budget increase for the delegation after their election and an office in the government center. And the legislative delegation later officially requested a reasonable budget of $40,000. It was 20. Well, the legislative delegation made the budget request. State law mandates that Kershaw County provide a reasonable expense for a legislative delegation office. $40,000 is a reasonable amount to run that office for a year, I believe. The legislative delegation, or let's just say the legislative delegate has an employee. The delegation has one employee that they hired. The legislative delegation hired the employee. The employee works for the legislative delegation. The employee could not and did not make the budget request for the legislative delegation. And anyone who claims that, including the paper, it's just wrong. And our local paper is better than that. That's just bird dogging. And it's also just, I think, vindictive and small-minded, and persons of business who think that way, I think they should be ashamed on that. And I'm going to tell you who the employee was, or still is, and I want to just share something with you. Bear with me one second. It's Katie Gwynn. And let me just tell you about this young lady. She was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. She moved to South Carolina in 2007 to attend the College of Charleston. While a student, Caitlin had a calling to service and joined the South Carolina National Guard, the SCNG, as a medic. After serving 5 years as a medic and deploying to Afghanistan, Caitlin was accepted into the United States Army Flight School and graduated as a rated Apache helicopter pilot in 2015. From 2015 to 2018, she served as a medical evaluation board officer in charge of overseeing the medical retirement process in the SCNG National Guard. From 18 to 20 the years, she was the state Equal Employment Specialist responsible for developing and monitoring the state Equal Employment Opportunity Program for the SCNG, South Carolina National Guard, as advertised or as advised, and she advised senior citizens on EEO matters within the agency. In 2020, she went part-time with the SCNG to be the CFO for the catering and board in Camden, South Carolina. She has lived in 6 different states throughout her career. She's a combat veteran, and she holds a commercial rotary wing pilot license. Let me tell you something. What is my point? This lady is a combat veteran, a war veteran. She's an honorable person. She was hired by a delegation, and then we've got a newspaper attacking her. Partisan politics. That's when it's a sad day in Kershaw County. A decorated combat veteran. And I said this before, and I'll say this again. When I look at somebody like that, I think about my own daughters or my own wife, how hard a woman has to work to get ahead. I'm not being sexist, I'm being factual. Women, girls have to work 5 times harder to achieve just 1 iota than a man can achieve. And so I salute this young lady. I wouldn't blame her if she just said, blank all of you and just throw it, her hooks in and leave. But that's not her way. She's a fighter. But anyway, I wanted to say that, and I want to say thank you again to all you folks out there. And I'm going to shut up so we can go home. God bless each and every one of you. And God bless each and every one of you on this county council. But I will not shut up, and I will be back at the next council meeting ready, locked and loaded, and ready to move forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Snodgrass.
Sure, Mr. Chair, members of council, just a few comments to wrap up. I first want to say, as we go through the budget and as we work all these things out, this is part of the process. They say sometimes government's kind of making sausage. You try to get it all in there, you grind it out, and you do what's best for the citizens, for the overall the citizens. You do what's best for trying to move things forward, and you make decisions now so that 15 years from now, 20 years from now, you look back and you're grateful that you made those decisions. And so this is all simply just part of the process. And so I just want to let everyone know, if you're here or listening, a lot of things up here been said, maybe a little confusing, trying to get clear questions. Maybe you have questions about the budget. So I want to invite you, if you have any questions, please, you can contact any of us, but please contact me. Would love to walk you through the budget, walk you through some of the things that we've talked about.
What's your number?
669-9409, but you can find me at CC Snack Shop in East Camden. In fact, that's what we'll do. If you got questions, if you'll meet me at CC's, I'll buy you a wedge salad and some shrimp, and then we'll get it all figured out. But seriously, just please ask questions. Let me know what you're seeing, and we'll try to help you through that. Excited about this budget. This budget's got some things in there that I've been working on personally for the last 3 years. When you talk about East Camden, Highway 1, restructuring and redoing Highway 1 to remediate flooding. I want to recognize Chris McKinney is here from the Santee Lynch's COG, Council of Governments. If you don't fully understand what that is, kind of an arm of the Department of Transportation. So as the DOT sends money to states and to areas, the COG is tasked with making sure those funds get to the areas for those transportation projects and housing and other things as well. But for me, as I've been talking with South Carolina DOT for the last 2.5 years, Danny's been right there with me. We've talking to them about our issue. They recognize the issue. They've sent us to Chris and his folks, and we're putting together a plan. And you're thinking, that seems really complicated, and it is. In my mind, and I told the DOT this, I said, listen, you've got you've got bulldozers and you've got shovels, and I just need you to come and fix this. And if you just listen to me, like, we can get this fixed, right, Danny? But they then introduce us to all the hoops that they invite us to walk through. So I just want to recognize Mr. McKinney, and they're helping us with this, and this budget that we're talking about today that we're passing has some mechanisms in there that's really going to help us remediate, transform an area of the county that, let's be honest, if you're from there, you know it's been forgotten. And it's my commitment that it's no longer going to be forgotten. And so just really excited about the trajectory that we're on. Again, my commitment's there. If you got any questions about all this process, please, please, please let me know. Love to talk with you.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and council members. I just want to conclude by thank you for recognizing Mr. McKinney. I was going to do the same, and appreciate him coming out tonight. Say that I asked all my colleagues, I know tonight's been a tough night on trying to get second reading on this budget, but if you have ideas and thoughts and amendments, please take your time and make the phone calls and get with us and bring them back in 2 more weeks. That's just part of the process, and because your thoughts don't pass or get the footage or support that you may desire doesn't mean that it's a bad thought or an idea. It's just like things in life. Sometimes timing is everything. It just may not be the right timing with your colleagues. So with that, I encourage all of us that's up here to continue to press on with trying to do third reading and make any amendments that you just so desire to want to do. And let's get 21, 22 moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gardner.
No report.
And from my end, I'll close it out. Great budget, Vic. Thank you, sir. Well done, Mary. Amazing. I just saw in the papers that Joyce Edwards, our high school student from Camden, I think 9th grade maybe, is the #1 high school girls basketball pick in the United States of America. Oh. All right. So I'm going to see Mr. Gardner go one-on-one with her. All right. Danny Templer, happy birthday. Economic development. Took 5 years to get to this point with the leadership of Mr. Carpenter, and now with Jeff Burgess, formerly Peggy, Mr. McKinney, the help of City of Camden, a sewer plant, the utilities, a whole gang of people, planning and zoning. Took 5 years to get where we are. It takes work. Things just don't happen. Thank you very much. Memorial Day coming up. Y'all be safe out there, especially on the lake. Sheriff's got a fast boat. He'll be looking for him, right, Sheriff? All right. I need to reiterate what Mr. Tucker said. Those that want to apply for one of the most consequential boards in the county, which is the Health Services District, need to get their applications into Mary by the 2nd of June. That's a week from today. Oh, darn. Our next meeting is the 8th of June, and I'm sad to report a Camden native, Mr. Under the Sea.
Yep.
If you remember The Littlest Mermaid, Sam Wright, Kershaw County, a great lover of Kershaw County. Went all the way to Broadway. He's in movies, and he passed away last night. So let's all remember that great American tonight. With that, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Carpenter, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, just for the record, I was not the administrator that was arrested. We did have, this past weekend, a great day at the river, a yak in the river. You see some pictures up there. Parks and Rec staff conducted it, had a great turnout. They're so encouraged by it that they're looking to do and restart our fall event as well on the river. So yak in the river was quite a success.
Yep.
Again, coming up this coming Friday, we'll be doing the ribbon cutting for the splash pad, which is on Battleship Road adjacent to the swimming pool. The City of Camden will be conducting that ceremony. I encourage people to come out. It is open on weekends currently, and with Memorial Day, it'll be open all summer. So the splash pad is a great addition to what we have there. And that's my report.
Attorney.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing.
Thank you.
And no executive session. Can we entertain a motion to
Mr.
adjourn?
Chairman, motion to adjourn.
Mr. Tucker, second from Mr. Connell. Any discussion?
Stay
All
here.
right, let's move to a vote. All those in favor? And it's unanimous, and we're dismissed.